afternoon. I'm Randy, and much more importantly, this is Ted Thomas. And of course, Ted Thomas is the authority on tax liens, certificates, tax auctions. And by the way, Ted, I must say, you're also the authority on finding really, really cool shirts. You got another great one there.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, here, let me stand way up and you can see the dragon. Maybe you can see the dragon.
Oh, very cool. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Now is that hey, Ted, is that a shirt you put on when you're just feeling dangerous for the day and like ready to rock and roll? All right. Ted,
Not bad for an old guy, right?
Do you have any words for the folks before we start tackling some of their questions?
Yeah, a lot. I hope everybody's doing well. The news that we're listening to every day is kind of scaring everybody. We heard an inflation report this morning, and then my goodness, the news isn't as good as we'd like. But the tax lien and deed business is very good. We just had a group at an auction in Michigan. They were buying properties. Can you imagine buying properties for 10 and 20 cents on the dollar? So, well, maybe we'll talk about that later. But those guys that are just tuning in and got questions, just fire away, and Randy and I will answer them, and we're going to do a whole hour of that. So I'm looking forward to it.
So hit us with your questions. Ted mentioned that I'm going to help answer them. That was a faux pas, Ted. I don't know this stuff, man. You do. You're going to answer all these questions.
Oh, did I say you were going to answer them? Okay, I'll answer them. You ask them. How's that?
Don't look at me. That's the guy. All right. So,
all right.
First question we got here, Ted. You ready for this?
Yep.
If the tax lien certificate does not redeem, can I refuse the title to the property?
Yes, you could just forget about the whole thing. And what would happen is the government didn't collect any money, so they would just issue another tax lien and hope someone would buy it at the next auction. They would just reissue it. They would just start all over again. So it would be much better if you thought the thing out. Don't buy a tax lien unless you went and looked at the property first. What happens to people is they buy stuff and they don't look at it. Then they get there and said, oh my goodness, I bought the city dump. That would not be a good idea. And so you don't want to pay for that. You don't want to pay for that because you don't want to buy the city dump, right? But if people actually buy stuff and they don't think about it.
Yeah, and I know you've talked about that before, Ted, how important it is, boots on the ground, eyes on the scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Another question, and this is important, and I'm sure a lot of folks are wondering about here, but how much money do I need to get started doing this?
Well, you could start with $50 or you could start with 500,000. It doesn't matter. Sometimes they'll build a freeway, and when they build a freeway, they'll have a little plot of land that they didn't use, and so that they'll make a lot, and they'll have a tax lien on it. So you can buy a little strip of land enough to put a sign on or something, and that might only be $50 or $100. Now, I wouldn't recommend you do that because a tax lien is going to pay 16, 18, or 24%. So let's say you make 24% on $50. Why would you waste your time? So, but if you want to buy the average house in the United States, the taxes is only a couple of $1,000s in the first year. So if it's a couple of $1,000s, well, definitely you want to you would put $2,000 in, and then if you made 24%, you made some money. So you wouldn't want to buy too small, otherwise you're just wasting your time. But people always look at a business and say, "Oh, I want to do everything where I don't have to put up any money." Well, this is really an investment business, so it's called tax defaulted property and tax lien and deed certificates. Tax deed certificates are really selling the property, but tax liens are an alternate investment. I mean, basically what the governments did in half of the states is they created an investment for people that want to learn about it. So it's a really good investment because you're going to invest with the government, then you're going to hold the certificate. When the people pay it, you're going to get paid back by the government. So it was made as an investment. They're trying to get as much risk out of it as they can. But the point is, it's an alternative investment is really what it is. So people try to talk about it like it's a piece of real estate, nothing down or something like that. You should really be thinking, how much money do I want to put in? Like putting money in a savings account. You put money in a savings account. You want to know how much you're going to generate for interest. Well, that's what the tax lien business is. The local governments created this so people would have an alternative investment. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, it is nice to know that you don't need a lot of money to get started. But as you're saying, Ted, I mean, it's an investment type of business, and
right,
got to do something. We got another question here, Ted, and this is: can I do this from an offshore location, or do I have to be in the U.S. or a U.S. citizen?
Okay, well, you don't have to be a U.S. citizen, and yes, you can do it from offshore. So, but let's talk about this for a second. Okay, you need to be English speaking because of two important things. One, the counties within the United States, and there's over 3,000 of them, people in the United States only can be guaranteed to talk one language. So the official language of the states, is English. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have a huge Spanish population in the middle part of the country, get Germanic population. We have different population in the east. They've got Irish and English, and and then they've got Italian. So there's a lot of languages, but the only official language is English. All right, so it's a long answer here. So you'd want to speak English because you're ultimately going to have to talk to the county either in writing on your computer, or you're going to buy, and so you're going to need U.S. dollars. So you're going to have to buy in United States dollars because they're not going to convert yen or Deutschmarks or pesos. They're not going to convert them. You're going to have to do everything in English, and you're going to have to do it with U.S. dollars. So how do we work that out? So we have clients in the UK, United Kingdom. They can go to a U.S. bank there. All the Canadian provinces can do that. I actually teach my classes in Australia. I teach them in Singapore, teach them in Thailand, places where they have American banks, because you need American dollars to do it. All right, so you wouldn't want to buy an investment that you couldn't speak with the people you're doing. So someone in there is going to have to be well versed in English. So that's a long answer to a very small part of the market. A very small part of the market.
Seems like you can do it from anywhere as long as you speak the language, so to speak.
Right. And you have U.S. dollars. You can't do it without U.S. dollars.
Yeah. Another question here, Ted, is which state pays the 20% a month on taxes?
Oh, well, that's an easy one. That's the state of Georgia. Georgia. Pays 20%, and they'll do it in a number of days, actually. So if you bought a certificate in Georgia today, you're actually buying not a tax certificate, you're buying a redeemable deed. All right, so if you bought it today, so this is day one, and then the certificate stayed outstanding for 20 days, and then they come in and pay. When they come in 20 days to pay, they have to give you back all your money plus 20%, because it's not an interest rate of return, it's actually a penalty. So you pay a penalty. So any day from day one to day 365 is a penalty of 20% in the first year, 30% in the second year.
Well, is that one of the higher ones out there, Ted?
That's pretty high. Texas is higher. Illinois is higher. Some of them will accumulate higher, but Georgia's a penalty state, and there's 5 different penalty states.
Okay. Well, you've got a lot of YouTube videos, Ted, and how often do you post those videos for folks to see?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you a video on that. But before he shows it, folks, I post videos 7 days a week. I post YouTube videos. Let me just show you a quick 30-second video of that. Austin, can you play that for me? Play a 30-second video for these guys.
Go ahead and play that, Austin.
There you go.
Okay, so dude, you can't hear him? Okay, then I'll
That's a few YouTube videos, right?
That's quite a few videos.
Yeah.
I couldn't count fast enough.
There's about 350 or something like that up there.
Wow.
It's
A lot of good information there too. Yeah, good information you can find out. So got another question for you, Ted. Sure. What happens to my deposit if I don't use all the funds at the auction?
Okay. So you go to an auction, you raise your hand to buy a property, and when you pay them, you're going to have to pay them with certified funds of some kind or cash. Now, a lot of them won't take cash now. So let's say you paid them with a cashier's check for $20,000, but you only bid $18,000. So they got their money, they're happy. All right, now you're going to ultimately get a deed to that property, but prior to that, they'll send you back the other money. They can't make change like going to the bank. But what they can do is they can take the money back, cash the cashier's check, and then the amount that you overpaid, they'll send it back. They don't keep it; they're going to send it back to you.
Okay, good. Another question here. Prior to investing in a tax deed, what due diligence is recommended to avoid any issues?
Wow.
Yeah,
Well, I
that's a
can't give
loaded
a
question
half-hour
for you.
class because we're only going to be here an hour. All right. So what due diligence you leave? Well, the first thing you would want to do is you'd want to look at the property. I mean, it's kind of like a guy and a gal. You wouldn't marry the gal if you hadn't seen her. So what you really want to do is you want to see the property because it could be underwater. I, I don't mean financially. I mean literally underwater. So that property's not, you're not going to build on that or do anything with it. So you want to look, or it could have burned down, or it could have been next to a chicken farm or a pig farm. You wouldn't want that. All right. So the first thing you're going to do is look at the property. All right. Now you want to, while you're looking at it, you want to look around and see what's around it because it's real estate. So location, location, location. So if it's surrounded by a dump, I don't know if you want that, but you'd want to know if it's surrounded by a nice neighborhood. Wow, you definitely want that. All right. So you need to look at the property, determine the neighborhood. Now you determine the neighborhood because you're going to want to sell that property. So when you buy it, you got to have an exit strategy. So there's two things to think about, and then using your computer, if you don't know how, we teach you how. You need to look and see if there's any defects in the title, because when the county sells you the property, they're going to give you a quit claim, and they're not going to warranty the title. They're not going to warranty the condition or any of that. So that's a brief, a 1-minute answer, but that's a whole class. Believe me, due diligence is really important.
Yeah, Ted, I know you and I have talked about that sometimes. I know there's plenty of things that folks need to look into. So very important. Our next question, what are over-the-counter tax liens?
That's kind of a slang term that a bunch of us invented about 30 or 40 years ago. So the auction takes place. An auction takes place. I should show you an auction list. I'll do that in a minute. But when an auction takes place on, let's say it was in Miami, they're going to have 50,000 certificates. So people will keep raising the hand and buying, or they'll do it online. They'll buy online. And so they're buying whatever's left over. Nobody's bought them. So they're just sitting there. So let's say you had 60,000 available. They sold 50,000. What are they going to do with the other 10,000? Well, they're still available. So then the county literally picks up the list and takes it over here and puts it on a counter, so to speak. So think of yourself, you walked into the county record, and here's a big counter, and now you can buy it over the counter. So you do that literally online. You can go online and they'll have another list and you can buy them that way. The difference is, and it's a big difference, is there's no bidders over the counter because you're the only one standing there. And when you're at an auction, there could be 500 people at an auction, but when you go over the counter, there's probably not anyone there. So there's no bidding. So what do you care about no bidding? Because if you're buying a tax lien, you always get the highest level. So in Florida, tax liens start at 18%. The next bid is 17.5, 17, 16.5, 16. All right. So the bidding's coming down at an auction, but if you go over the counter, there's nobody bidding against you, so you're going to get 18%. So which do you want? Do you want 10% at the auction, or 5% or 1%, or do you want 18%? It's up to you.
Yeah, that's a simple question, and that's one that answers itself. So,
yeah.
Next question. Somebody's asking, can I buy tax liens in Colorado?
Colorado is a tax lien state. Yes, you can do that. Yes.
It can be done.
Yes.
How about in Texas? Does Texas have online auctions?
You pretty much can say all the states will have online. There might be a county or two. Now, Texas has got 254 counties. So do I know all 254? I can get the book out and go over there and look it up, or I can look it up online. The list is going to be that thick. So generally speaking, Texas, you can buy online and offline. Now, if someone goes and researches all 254 counties, there might be one that I'm wrong on, but you get the point that yes, you can buy online. And most of them are going to happen in the big counties, like Harris County is going to have 250 properties every month. Some of the small counties out in Sweetwater and down on the on the Rio Grande are probably only going to have, a half a dozen. There's not going to be very many. It has to do with population.
We have another question from Justin Lakes, and his question is New York a good state to invest in?
You want an opinion, or what do you want? Okay, the challenge with New York is they do two things in New York. Okay, so let's divide it up. So east of the Hudson River, you're going to find Suffolk and Norfolk counties. Those two counties sell tax lien certificates. Now you come over to the Hudson River, go all the way to Montreal or down to New Jersey, all of those counties sell tax defaulted property. So there's two systems in effect. These two counties that sell tax liens and the other counties sell tax defaulted property. There will be plenty of tax defaulted properties in New York. Now, not last year, but the year before, I bought over 9 properties just online in New York. Okay, so I'm not negative New York, but let's do some analysis here just for a second. New York is a state where there's going to be more and more tax defaulted property, because if you look at population, now this is not Ted Thomas' opinion, just look at the census. The census will show that New York loses about a city the size of Orlando every 4 years. So that's about 1 million people. So about 250,000 people leave New York every year. So a lot of those people are abandoning property. All right, if you got a place to sell those properties, or you can get them cheap enough, that would be okay. But New York's an outpopulation state, and that's because of the economy. So is New York a good place? If all the people in New York, well, they love New York, right? There's probably 14 million of them or whatever. But the marketplace long term is not going up. The opposite would be Florida. Florida, everything's going up. In New York, it's tapering down.
Ted, earlier you were talking about what kind of money you need to get started in this, but somebody's got an interesting question. Can I use a credit card to pay for auction properties?
The answer is yes and no. So there's a limited amount of states that will sell tax defaulted property and allow you to use a credit card. We just talked about one of them. That was New York. And also Michigan does the same thing. There might be others coming online, that I haven't, had experience with. But generally speaking, when you decide you're going to do this, you're going to get the auction rules, and the auction rules will tell you exactly how your money has to come to the county. Now, you can't walk in with a second party check. You can't walk in with cash in a lot of places. You have to do exactly what they say. So if they say, make the check out to the county treasurer, well, if we're going to say, don't make it out to the county sheriff, make it out to the treasurer. It's got to be exactly. So there's auction rules that tell you exactly how to do that. And they won't take the money unless you do it their way. So every county has their own auction list and list of rules. So that means there's going to be at least 3,000 plus different rules at those auctions.
It's a lot to consider, I guess, huh?
I don't think it's so much as it is that they're allowed to make their rules. See, the counties all became counties at different times. We started out with the colonies, and then from the colonies, they started taking away from the Indians, and then they took away from the Spanish when they got over into California. But as that country grew, they had different rules. So in the East, they still have townships, they still have municipalities, where in the West, you're only going to find huge counties with and many have large populations.
Well, another question that came in, Ted, is do you have coaches to help folks?
Oh boy, do we have coaches. This business is a business you can do on your own, but it takes you a long time to learn it. The best way, in my opinion, is to have a coach. I'll show you a little video of some of the coaches here in a second, kind of queuing you up there, Austin, so you'll know what I'm going to do next. But we have coaches that we have trained and certified, brought through our system. And so I'm a big advocate of coaching. And the reason I'm a big advocate of coaching is this simple. You don't know what you don't know. And you can get so much in a book, you can get so much by going there. But if you have a coach, I have a group of coaches that work for me that have bought and resold more than 200 tax defaulted properties. That's going to be some pretty damn good advice. Here's Austin with a little video.
Let's roll the video. All right. Well, another question is coming in. They're not stopping. They're not slowing down, Ted. I hope you had your coffee this morning.
Yeah, I
This
did.
this next question is, how long on average does it take to learn this business? How much education will I need?
Well, I'm prejudiced. So some people are going to learn this in 90 days and be out doing it. Other people are going to take a year to learn it. It just depends upon what you want to do. If you didn't do anything else, you could stop work. You had everything else in your life together, and you didn't do anything else. You could do it in a couple of months' time, and then start going to auctions with either our coaches or go on your own and learn how to do it. But that's one way. But the normal person will start, and we have courses that take a whole year to take. Some people will work with me, and I work with them for 13 weeks at a time. And then we do cycles. They go through cycles together. And so it's sort of up to the person. The people that are successful get involved in the coaching. They get involved in what I call the intensive business stuff that I teach, and the ones that go to auction. So they do all of those things. But here's the beauty of it: you only have to learn it once, and then you can do it for the rest of your life. And so it's just a matter of, once you decide to dedicate your time to it, how much do you want to put in? So some young people, they don't have a lot of other things to do. They'll get done in 90 days. Other people, it's going to take them 6 months or 8 months. Most adults that learn how to do it, most adults will take 6 months, 9 months, even a year, under no pressure. It's much better to learn under no pressure, at least in my opinion.
Sure. Next question here, Ted. How do you keep from getting discouraged, not getting properties at these auctions?
Well, here's how you stay non-discouraged. It's like health, you know. If you do a little bit of exercise once in a while, you know, you feel good. If you don't do things and you stay up all night and you eat wrong or whatever, you don't feel good. So you can always feel good about the tax lien and deed business, because it's a business of abundance. It's been around for 200 years, and there's always going to be a new crop every year. There's going to be at least 3,000 tax defaulted auctions every year. So you'll go and you'll be overwhelmed at first. Like if you went to an auction in Los Angeles, you might be in a room with 1,000 people. You might be 1,500 people. Matter of fact, you won't be in the room anymore. They have to do it outside at the fairgrounds because so many people. All right. But if you went to a little auction in some little town in Western Massachusetts or upstate New York, there's probably going to be 7 to 20 people in the room. Or if you go to Kalamazoo, Michigan, there might be 40 people. So your learning is going to depend upon what's happening in that room, you know, the auction. So is Kalamazoo going to be busy? No, they're all done in an hour. Okay, in Los Angeles, they'll never finish. They'll go the complete day, and then they'll have to go a second day. So the learning process is different for the different auctions. So that's what speeds it up and slows it down. The classes we do, that's all done at a regular rate that people can learn at. So that's the difference.
Ted, is there a virtual way to view out of state properties?
Absolutely. Yeah, we actually have virtual seminars that we do, and we do one of those every single month. But to look at property, you can look at all the property. If a county is online now, they will have a virtual auction. So if the county has taken the time, or they've hired auctioneers to do it, they'll go out and photograph the property. Now, keep in mind, a photograph doesn't show you, you know, the inside of the building. It doesn't show you the quality of the building or anything like that. But they'll show you a structure so that you know the structure that hasn't burned down. And of course, then you could go. The satellite systems are just short of fantastic. So I'll just mention one and not go into too much in depth. It's called the GIS mapping system. Almost every county has it, and it's just a satellite, and it's looking down, except you can come down all the way down to where you can see whether there's a geranium on the front porch. And now you can look at the property from all different levels. You can see where the freeway system goes. You can see where the rivers run. You can see their topography. You can see all of that using the GIS mapping system. Now, I'm not talking about Google driving up and down the streets. Those things are still there. So you could do that. So there's a lot of things you can do virtually in the business that we couldn't. When I started, back when I had black hair and I was skinny, in those days, you had to drive to the county just to get the list, because they didn't even send them out. Now you can get the list on email. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's helpful to know.
Yeah.
So Ted, another question: in Texas, is the mortgage always eliminated for the investor in a tax deed sale?
Okay. Just to be overly correct, they don't use mortgages much in Texas. What they usually use is what's called a deed of trust or trust deed, which is similar to a mortgage. It's a loan document. They can use mortgages, but mortgages are kind of the old way of doing things. So along the east, they use mortgages. But in Texas, when the auction takes place, okay, that's kind of a drawing line. When that auction comes down, the treasurer can eliminate the trust deed from the property. Okay, but when they start out in Texas, they don't eliminate it. So when you buy the tax deed, the trust deed will still be on the property when you start.
All right. Next question here. What state do you recommend to get started with? Is there one easier than the others for a beginner?
Yeah, there's always an easy one. The easy one is the one you're in. Just start right there because start in your own county. I mean, why drive all the way to Houston or why go to Cincinnati? Why do we want to do that? Just figure it out in your own county. As a matter of fact, what people really should do is you live in a city, a town, whatever. That's within a county. You should actually go to your county records. It's a big building. You can go in there and go into the map room. You can go to the tax room. You can go everywhere. You can see where all the assessment is. You can look up everybody's property. I can sit here in my office and look up your property, tell you how many bedrooms it has, what kind of roof it has, how much you owe on the property. I can tell you everything about your property just sitting here. And I have mapping systems that will do that for every property in the United States that I retain and help people with. But the local person, someone that's just watching brand new, you can go to your county and say, "Hey, can I have a county tour?" And they'll say, "Sure, come at 2 o'clock tomorrow." And they'll take you. They'll show you. It's a public record. Everything in real estate is a public record, and you can go there anytime you want, 5 days a week.
So like Dorothy said, there's no place like home. That's the place to get started this business
Yeah.
locally.
Well, you know what everybody looks for. People say, "Oh, I want to go where I can get rich quick." Well, what's wrong with your own hometown? There's nothing wrong with that. So don't go anywhere else. So if you're in a state of Mississippi, well then why not just go to this? I think there's about 60 or 80 counties in Mississippi. I can look it up and find out. And those counties, you can go right to that county. In Mississippi, they pay 18% on a tax certificate. What's wrong with 18%? You just buy it in your local community. You can go look at it, you drive down there and drive your car down there and take a look at it. It's easy as that. I mean, why make it complicated if you can do it in your hometown?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hey, Ted, can there be more than one tax lien holder for different years?
Sure. You could have a state like Arizona where they're going to issue a tax lien, and if the people don't pay, they'll issue one next year. If they don't pay, they'll another year. So every year they'll issue a tax certificate. So you could buy one today, and then you could just hold that and wait for the people to pay. But if they didn't pay, no problem. The clock will still keep ticking. They'll still owe, and someone else could buy the one for the next year, and then someone else could buy the one for the year after that. It's made as a tax liens are made as an investment for the local guy. I mean, it's an alternative investment. There's nothing unusual about it. They've been around for a couple of 100 years. Anybody can give their money to the government, so the government has the money to pay their bills. All right. Now the government gives you a receipt, and your receipt simply has a covenant, call that a promise. The covenant says if this guy doesn't pay you, you can take the property. That's how simple a tax certificate is. It's not any more complicated than what I just said. That sounds
I
pretty
got
bizarre.
another question, Ted. Yeah, another question here. You may have answered this, but maybe there's another take on it. Should I start in my local area, or do you recommend a specific state?
No, I always recommend it in your local area because it's the easiest thing to do. So let's say that you lived in, well, you live in say Cleveland. All right.
Yeah,
Well, there's no sense in you going to Columbus down on the south end of the state when you
right.
can get the same thing right in Cuyahoga County. So there's no, so why spend the time traveling and all the rest of it? Now, let me tell you, investors get very sophisticated very fast because now we have a computer in our hand. All right, so what are they doing? They're looking in their community, then right away they see, oh, I'm going to look in San Bernardino, California. So I'll tell you right now, in 30 years of doing this, I've never seen less than 1,500 properties come up for auction in San Bernardino.
Wow.
I've never seen less than 1,500. So they're sitting here in Cuyahoga County. So, oh, I think I want to go to San Bernardino. Well, you can do that online in seconds. But what if you have to go there? What if you have to go to an auction where you have to raise your hand? You have to drive, fly, whatever. You getting my point?
Well, it sounds
That's
like here
expensive.
somebody's got to, yeah. Oh, especially with gas today. Even driving around, it sure is.
Yeah. Well, airlines aren't too cheap, and they're not too fast
No.
either.
Hey, got a question here from somebody where it may be a problem for them to do it locally. He says, my state only sells certificates. I want to buy deeds, so it's not possible to stay in my own county. Is there a state that is easy to buy tax
first
deeds
of all,
online?
First of all, they got the question wrong. They got the question wrong. They don't understand. Okay, if a state sells tax lien certificates and nobody buys a tax certificate, what's going to happen? I can tell you right now what's going to happen. The county is going to go out and confiscate the property and sell a tax deed. So first of all, to answer the question, every state in the United States and every county sells tax deeds. Half of the counties sell tax liens. So the question was, if they don't sell tax, they sell tax liens. If they're not sold, they'll sell tax deeds. All right, now, if you don't want to buy the tax lien, just go down and find out and go to the tax deed auction. They will have both in that state.
Okay, that's good to clear that up.
Yeah.
Kylie's got a question. What is a bid down auction style? A bid down auction style.
A better word to use is a reverse auction. So let's use Florida. Florida is a bid down reverse auction. Now the two words were simultaneous. Bid down and reverse. All right. So a normal auction goes up. A reverse auction starts in Florida 18, 17 and a half, 17, 16 and a half, 16, 5. You can drop it to whatever you want. Lowest bidder gets it. So if I go to that auction, I want to get it. I bid 1%. I just knocked everybody else out.
Huh. Okay.
You can bid it all the way down to 0.25%.
It's a good strategy. Next question here. So if more than one person owns a certificate for different years, which person would be able to acquire the property?
The person that wants to buy out the other two certificates. You have to pay the other people. See, that everybody's guaranteed to get paid. So if you want to end up with the property, you're going to have to buy those other two certificates.
Simple
but you know
enough.
what the price is. The price is whatever they paid plus whatever the interest rate. You already know what the price is. They can't raise the price. Yeah. You already know what the price is. So
we have somebody here.
When you buy a certificate, if you buy certificate number 1, they're going to ask you the day you come in, do you want to pay the second and third years? They're going to ask you, do you want to pay that? Well, of course I want to pay those. Pay all 3 years. Then when the guy comes in, he has to give you back all of that money, and he has to give you that high rate on all of it. Nice strategy for upping your income real quick.
It's making more money off your investment. Just increase your investment. Sure.
Exactly. Yeah.
Ted, a very important question here. This could be the most important one of the day. Ted, can we see the back of your shirt?
That's important. That's definitely important.
What's going on back there, Ted? Can you explain that?
Huh? Is that pretty good? That's
what is that? It's a dragon.
It's a dragon. Maybe I gotta.
All right.
Linda, lower my camera. Can you lower my camera and then they can see my shirt? Can you lower? Wait a minute. We're gonna lower the camera. Now, a little bit lower. Now.
Oh yeah. Now we can see it. All right. Yeah.
Can you see that dragon? Let's see if you can see him better on the back.
Ted, do you wear that when you go to auctions? And does that put a little bit of fear, a little intimidate the other folks you're bidding against?
Actually, when I go to the auction, I have to wear a hat and I wear a coat.
Well,
so nobody will know I'm there.
That's right, because you probably intimidate them when you show up, but
no, they're just going to try and beat me, and I don't want them to beat me. They want to show they're smarter than I am.
Well, Ginger wants to say thank you. She wants to thank you for all the great info you had, and she said her name's Ginger, and she just wants to thank you for all the great info. But she says, I have bought land in Michigan at their tax sales. What is the fastest way to sell it for profit?
Fastest way to sell it for profit is start with Craigslist and put it on Craigslist. Okay, There's a strategy for buying. You see, if you learn how to buy, you can get rich. See, everybody's worried about selling because they don't know how. That's number one. And number two, they think they have to be a pushy salesperson. So I have a solution for that. When you hear my solution, you're going to say, this guy is crazy. See, everybody goes to real estate class, and the guy in the real estate class says, buy it low and sell it high. Now, you heard that every day of your life. But I don't
Sure.
say that to people. I say, buy it low and sell it low. So the strategy is you make your money when you buy, you go to the bank when you sell. So you don't want to try to get it to high price. So if I can buy for 10 cents on the dollar here, why don't I sell it for 50 cents on the dollar here? When I'm selling at 50%, all the bargain hunters are in love with me. All the property flippers, all the fixer-uppers, they want to buy from me because I'm going to sell it at a low price. So I'm just looking for this margin. I want to buy it low at the auction. Then I want to sell it low. So I buy low and I sell low. And she wanted a strategy. I just gave it to you. Now put it on Craigslist, put it on multiple listing, put it on Facebook Marketplace, put it on every electronic site you can find, and know what your tax assessed value is. So if you've got a value way up here and you're selling way down here, how difficult is that to sell? Well, go ask Walmart. They made the biggest business in the world. That's all I did. I copied Walmart, Target, and Costco. They buy it low and they try to sell it low. I'm not a genius. I just looked at the people that were making money.
Hey, I got a question for you, Ted. Though, if you price it low, can't you get some auction? Some people bidding against each other for your property.
I don't wait for that. The first guy that's going to pay me my money,
You
I'm out of there. I'm
you just
in
want to
and
go
out.
quick.
I'm not
So
sophisticated.
well, pricing low is like moving it quick and then get on to the next deal. Then.
I want to get on to the next thing. Here's what I know that nobody else knows. See, everybody's worried about property. If I've got a strategy that I can go to these auctions, which there's 3,000 of a year, how many people do you think even know about that? Just try to go to the dinner table or go out tonight and buy someone a drink and start trying to tell them about tax liens. You start telling them, they're going to say, this guy, Thomas, is crazy. You can't tell people about tax liens and deeds. They think you're a wacko. If you tell someone you bought a property for 20 cents on the dollar, look out. You're going to get, people are going to, they're going to barrage you. They're going to, well, I buy them for that. Why do I buy them for that? Because I know how. All right. So the people, you try to explain this business to someone else, you got a challenge on your hands. It's a challenge, even your family.
Well, it's interesting. Like you said, you're making your money when you buy it because you know how to do that, and the selling it then becomes real easy.
Selling's a piece of cake. That's the easy part.
So, a question here: can I hire a realtor to look at properties for me?
Of course you can. There's in a good market like there is today, there's at least 1 million brokers out in the marketplace today. They'd love to look at property for you.
Is there any advice on like what a fair price is to have a lawyer? I'm sorry, a realtor be looking over the property and reporting back to you?
Well, I mean, I think it's like anything. If you go to the barber, you have to trust he's not going to shave all the hair off your head. You have
Yeah.
to trust somebody. So why not interview all the realtors that until you find someone that you have a rapport with and you feel comfortable with, and tell them exactly what you want, and then see how they respond. You'll know by uh, you make a judgment of another person within seconds of them opening their mouth, or if they show up with a funny face or they're dressed wrong or whatever. You make judgment decisions all the time. So judge the realtor by what they tell you and you could say to them, could you do a comparable market analysis for me? And the guy says no, well then that's no. So next, if there's 1 million of them in
Yeah.
the United States, there's probably more than 1 million now. But in a good market, there's always more than 1 million, people that belong to the National Association of Realtors. I mean, I'm not negative on real estate people. Their problem is it's very hard to make money in that business because everybody's trying to push them down. I'm always trying to push people up.
Here's a hypothetical situation's been set up. Once the property is put up for auction, say someone wins it for $2,000. At that point, could there still be certificate holders or liens that need to be paid after they acquire the property?
Well, first of all, there couldn't be any tax lien certificates due, But if you understand the complexity of a real estate deal, it's not just tax liens and deeds. So when I teach it, I say, all right, when the auction takes place, what's going to happen is the money will come in, and they're going to pay off the tax of the county's going to pay off the tax lien and deed. So that clears that. But that doesn't clear any other things from the property. It'll clear, let's say, a lawsuit for a dental. Someone didn't pay their dental thing, but it's not going to clear municipal lien, for example, or the federal government could have a lien. The federal government is allowed to have a lien on any property, like the IRS is the federal government. All right, they could have people that didn't make payroll taxes or the state taxes, things like that. So you need to understand when you buy, the property is sold to you. The county is not giving you any judgment or any warranty, would be a better word. No warranty on the condition of the property. So that's number one. That's why you'd always look at it. That's due diligence. Number two, the county is not giving you any warranty on or any that there's any defects on the title. So you would have to clear. So that's what due diligence is all about. So anybody that's involved, you need to do due diligence. You're not going to be able to walk away from not doing it.
Yeah, you said that again and again. Due diligence, and it's one of the really sounds like it's a very important part of this.
It's an important part of it, but I think I've been teaching this for 30 years, and you just don't know what you don't know. All right, so how are you going to get to know that? It would be good to have a coach, it'd be good to have a mentor helping you. However, you need to think if there is something wrong, how would you check on it? Well, you certainly could hire an attorney, nothing wrong with that. You certainly could hire a real estate broker, nothing wrong with that. You certainly could go down to the local county records, nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's a lot of things to do that are just very practical that cost very little. But the average person, I want to do this and now I'm rich. But that isn't the way life works. It's a steady process is what it is.
You know, Ted, you mentioned having a mentor, the importance of that, and you would be like the ultimate mentor. And it's funny enough because Justin Lakes has asked, can I attend the auction with you, Ted?
You can do a number of that, and I'll show you some videos of that. But generally what we do now, like this week, they're finishing it today. This week, we have a group going through the auction in 3 of the counties in Michigan. And we actually have coaches that will take people to the auction. And they go in little small groups, maybe a dozen people, 6 couples. They'll all go together and they'll plan the day, and then they'll go to the auction. They go to Mulva. You can't go with me because I couldn't be here talking to you if I was at the auction. So I stay in the office now, but the people that I've certified to do that, they go out and do it. Absolutely.
You can't be 2 places at once, Ted. I thought you could do anything, man.
Yeah, well, I'm very limited. My old I used to have gray hair, and I had hair, but now they're both going away.
Hey, no, do we want to see? Do we have a video on people taking a tour?
I'm just not doing the right things. Just 1 second ago, Linda came out from the other part of the story and went like this: video, and then you said to Austin, okay, show the video.
Well, watch this, Ted. I'm going to get started.
Much for
Austin, video roll. Yeah, that actually looks like fun. That looks like fun, Ted. Is lunch included during those tours?
Oh man, listen. These groups, and they never want to go to bed at night. That's why I don't go anymore because my goodness, they all day long together. They start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they want to get at night. Then they want to have dinner, and they won't get up from the table. Oh, let's go to bed. No, let's talk some more. And they don't want to go to bed because it's not boring TV anymore. Yeah, I forgot to show the video. How about that? So Austin, good question. Job. Yeah, good job, Austin. He wants Ted. Austin's giving you the thumbs up. He's happy to hear that. Here's another question. Which finger did he have up? Which finger is his thumb? Okay, good. Oh yeah. Both thumbs came up. Okay. Okay. Another question here for you, Ted. Do you call the owner before the tax deed? What?
do you call the owner before tax deed? Remember,
Before
I
the
pass
auction?
these questions on. Yeah,
Oh my
I
goodness.
guess.
No, you can't. You can, that would be bothering people. You can't go to when you go and look at the property. There's probably a big sign about that big, a huge sign said this property is going up for auction. But you don't want to bother owners. I mean, they if they're still in the house, you don't want to bother them. No, I don't bother anybody.
Yeah, maybe he was looking for inside information about the structure and the property and what kind of condition it was in. But
Well, I suppose some people are, would go up and knock on the door and say, "Hey, can I look and see the techie house that I want to buy?" Or, I don't know what they do, but I would not teach my client. My clients, I said, drive by, stop, walk back, take some pictures,
yeah,
be low key. Just because I wear these wild shirts doesn't mean I'm wild when I get out of the office. I mean, they have a chain on me; they'd reel me back in.
yeah, I can see the hook on the back of your shirt.
Yeah,
Looks like
exactly. They don't
Looks
let
like
me go
Linda's
very
pulling your back right now. So
exactly.
here's another
Exactly.
question, Ted. Are land banks similar to tax deeds?
Say that again.
Are land banks similar to tax
Oh,
deeds?
land banks. Oh my God, I
Yeah.
haven't heard anybody say that for a long time. No wonder I didn't understand. Oh no, a land bank is um, it's more than likely a local government. Okay, so what local government is starting to do again is the opposite of what they did 200 years ago. It used to be, and it still is, every piece of earth in the United States belongs today to the federal government. It all belongs to the republic. The republic allows them to have a state and then a county, and then the county allows you to have that piece of land as long as you'll pay taxes. All right. All right. Now, what happens if someone doesn't pay the tax? Certain counties are saying, oh, we want to get some of this land back to make a recreational area out of it. Or we want this to have a fresh air place for people go on their bicycle or whatever. So they start to put land back in, they start to take that land and put it back. Now, there are states that, and I don't want to talk about this too much because I haven't read up on it lately, but there are states, but I remember in Maryland, what Maryland did is they took massive parts of the state where the geese came back to land. And of course, the hunters went out there and they shot too many geese, and then we wouldn't have geese anymore. So they started buying that land and putting it in what they would call a land bank. So the land bank is going to be one of the government agencies. So it could be a city or a county, a municipality, could be the state, could be the federal. All right, so that's land they're putting back that the government's taking back. Now, keep in mind, when the government takes land back, it takes it off the tax roll. So just think about that. So if you're an environmentalist, you're saying, "Oh, we want it all back to the government." Well, then who's going to pay for the government? There's no money to pay. All right. So every time they take a property out of the commerce, out of the tax thing, well, then guess what? There's less tax money coming in. So there's pros and cons to that. So if you're an environmentalist, you want everything and someone else will pay for it. But I'm a taxpayer, so wait a minute, I don't want any more land going to the land bank. So there's two sides to that story. Long
Hey,
answer, but
got a question here, Ted, from somebody who looks like they're going to be a really good student of yours. It says they bought a ticket to your full day workshop this month, but what can I do in the meantime to learn more about the business?
okay, to learn more about it, they're coming to the workshop. That one's coming up just in a couple of days, matter of fact. But
Yeah.
once a month, we do an all day workshop, and it takes from 11 in the morning till 5 o'clock at night. So they should start going to the county records. They should find out if there's any tax liens in their state or their county and start looking at that. If they don't already have some materials to study, then they should go ahead and get registered. That way, when they get registered, each day, I didn't plan to talk about it, but each day we have a facilitator to answer people's questions. Now, a facilitator is like a guide. Okay, so we have 5 guides, and every day they give a class. So there's 5 guides every week. And once they become a client, they can talk to that guide, get questions, and come on calls like we're doing now that are only specific to tax liens and deeds. So they could be doing all that ahead of time. If they want to go to a
That's
three
good to
day,
know.
when I finish up, I'll show you what one of those looks like.
Okay. Another question, Ted. If there are any federal liens, can you do a quiet title to remove them if the property is worth it? And if so, how long will that quiet title take?
This is amazing to me that I've done 2 calls and there's been a quiet title call. I mean, I think I was 3 years in the business before anybody even brought up quiet title. Anyway, first of all, if a lien is on the property, that came from a judgment, and it came from more than likely a court action. Or if it's a federal lien, the liens have to be paid. All right, now certain federal liens have expirations on them, like an IRS lien. But most federal liens, you're going to have to work out something. Now, if you bought the property and you didn't own and it had a federal lien on it, it's staying on it until you do something about it. All right, now what you have to do about it is you contact the agency and see if they'll accept money. They'll say, yeah, we'll take all you're going to send. But you could bargain with them. But bargaining with the federal government is darn near an impossibility because of the time and effort it would take. So do your due diligence ahead of time, especially when you're starting, and make sure that you don't have municipal liens or federal liens on the property. If you got a coach, they can help you with that. But negotiating a federal lien is not some easy process. I can tell you that right now. I mean, I've done it, but I don't know if I want to do that again. It's been all the time. It wasn't that they gave me a hard time. It wasn't that they were difficult. It was doing business with the federal bureaucracy is like just short of impossible. You really have to be dedicated. I've done it because I want to be able to teach other people. And here's what I'm teaching you. Don't do it. Just don't buy the property.
Ted, you've explained it there. You know, you can do live auctions or you can do online auctions. Kylie is just wondering, are live auctions or online auctions better? Is one better than the other?
I love the live auction because I can sit in the room and look at who's doing what. And when someone's running out of money, whether you're at the auction or not, you can tell by the sound of their voice when they're running out of money. And if you're at an auction and you got a $500,000 property there and you're trying to get it for, let's say, 20 cents on the dollar, well, that'd be 100,000, wouldn't it? Well, people start running out of money when they get 100,000. Well, I like to hear that because maybe I can get it for 105. So I like to go to live auctions, and I tell my students try to go to live auctions, but times have changed. People are willing to go to an auction that is an online auction. So let me give you the caution on going online, because it's not the piece of paper in the hand like I've got now, something that's tangible. They're just bidding with numbers. And you're going to find out that at the auctions that are online, the bidding actually goes higher. People bid more online than they ever would even dream about bidding at an actual auction. Don't ask me why, but as we all know, people say things on the internet that they shouldn't say. If you saw them in person, they'd be hiding under the bed and shaking like this, right? But they're big and braggadocio. Well, people do that online, and then they end up with the property because you understand you're giving them the money before you buy on an online auction. They got your money, at least enough to make it worthwhile for you to lose it before you buy. They're going to make you put on a nice down payment, and if you don't follow up on an auction, they'll send a sheriff to see you in a live auction and an online auction. They'll keep you a deposit. In both cases, they'll keep your money. I'll guarantee you they'll keep your money, and you'll hear from it. It's you can't go to an auction and not follow up on your bidding. It's a serious for all the things that you're going to learn in today's lesson. An auction is a very serious matter, and you will see when you go there. There will be a sheriff or multiple sheriffs at an auction, and a treasurer can give an order, and they can carry you out if they have to. It's a serious thing. People don't take this seriously because they're online. There's no reason, nothing's there. People are sitting eating lunch right now. They're all relaxed. When you get that auction, whatever you do, don't talk to other people because they might say you were colluding on the bidding. You don't want that. You want to pay real close attention. Now we have auction classes. I won't give it live because I tell people don't do that ever again because there are people that are not honest. End of my preaching.
Okay. Well, that's
you don't want to go to an auction and not
That's...
come up with the money. If you do, you're going to go out in the arms of two sheriffs. I'll guarantee you that. If you don't have
warning taken.
Yeah.
Here's a question just for clarification, Ted. Can you buy tax deeds in Florida?
Any state that sells a tax lien, if the lien doesn't sell, it will become a tax deed. So for clarity for everybody, every state, every county, every municipality sells tax deeds. Why? Because if people don't pay, they can't leave the property out there. They have to do something with it. So to, to have the property transfer from private ownership to back to the county, they have to have an auction. Certain states, half of them, have counties that are very benevolent. Now, I made that word up, benevolent. That's Ted's thought process. They're benevolent because they'll sell a tax lien certificate. In a tax lien certificate, you don't get the property. The people stay on the property. You get a piece of paper. This is a tax lien certificate. It's just a piece of paper. You get a piece of paper. The people are still on the property. If they don't pay you, then you'll get that property. However, half of the states sell those, and they're very benevolent. They let the people stay there for 2 and 3 years in a default situation. So they're very nice to the people. If you go to California, you go to New York, you go to Texas, they're not going to be benevolent. I'll tell you that right now. When they have a tax deed auction and you win, you're going to get possession of that property in California, or you're going to get possession of it in New York. They are not. This is a serious business. Now, we're in a pretty serious area here. Fortunately, we're getting into the class because I get kind of pumped up here telling people, look, this is serious. That auctioneer expects you to perform. And if you don't perform, they'll do something about it. But this is a business where anybody can come to the auction. But when you come to the auction, you better be able to reach in your pocket and take out money, green stuff. If you can't take out green stuff and you haven't followed the auction rules, they're going to do something about it. This is you're not going to go down there and commit a fraud at the auction. They won't let you do it. And there are people that try to do that.
So we've got a few more questions left here, Ted. Does every tax deed sale require a quiet title? And, for folks who don't know, Ted, maybe make sure, what is a quiet title? Maybe make sure folks understand what that is.
It's amazing how many times this has come up. All right, a quiet title. When you buy from the county is going to issue what they call a deed. It might be a treasurer's deed, it might be a sheriff's deed, it might be a tax collector's deed. Here's what it really is. It's a quit claim deed. Write it down. I did not say fast. I said quit, Q-U-I-T. All right. So they're going to issue that deed. All that deed means is that they are giving you whatever they've got. And they are then not warranting the title in any way, and they're not warranting the condition of the property. All right. So you bought a property you got it for 10 cents on the dollar. It's worth $100,000. You are so happy. $100,000 property you got for 10 cents. All right, the next guy, when he buys it, he's a retail buyer. When he's a retail buyer, he wants to have title insurance. Title insurance will not be issued on a tax property unless you do a quiet title, because there's no proof that the title doesn't have defects. If there's no proof, the title company will not insure it. So when you buy a property at a tax defaulted auction, plan on, fund accordingly when you start, so you can pay the attorney to do a quiet title action. Could take 2 months, could take 6 months. I've had them take 13 and 14 months. All right, they have to quiet the title. Otherwise, the new buyer will not buy you the property from you.
Okay, we got one more question here for you, Ted. Do you have any workshops?
Yeah, we do. We have lots of workshops, but let me say something before I say anything else. Folks, I'm a investor and an author and a teacher. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a real estate broker. I'm not an advisor. And so you have to understand, when you're doing anything in the real estate market, attorneys are your best friend because they know all the ins and outs of that. So you might have to hire one of those when you do this, but you're not going to have to hire them every time. You're going to have to hire them so that you learn it. I'm not allowed to teach the law. I'm not allowed to operate you as a doctor or anything like that. I'm just a lay person that did a lot of deals, and people started asking me questions. Then I started creating video courses. Then I started creating audio courses. And then I started taking people to auctions. And then What you're going to see now is you're going to see one of our 3-day events. I hope you guys are learning a lot. If you missed and didn't get your question answered today, don't worry about it. You can send it in to us. We're going to give us some way to respond back to you. We'll answer all your questions. We get way too many questions, but I'm going to end with this video. It's just me at a 3-day workshop. We do that about 4 times a year. Austin, I'm handing it back to you. Good to see you, Randy. I'll see you next
3-day
week.
video. You too, Ted. Take care. Throw that video.